In this video, we are going to take a look at the dodge, burn, and sponge tools. And unlike these tools, the blur, sharpen, and smudge, these tools allow you to change pixel information of basically the way they look or move, so blurring them, sharpening, or smudging them. The next tools we're going to look at, dodge, burn, and sponge, will change them based on color information. So dodge is going to be used to lighten up an image. Burn tool is going to make it look a little darker, and the sponge tool will affect the saturation. You can see that the shortcut key is the letter O, so we'll start with the dodge tool. You can see that this is a brushed tool, so you can use any brush that you want. We can change the range, so do we want to affect the shadows, the midtones, or the highlights? We can affect the exposure, so how much is it exposing that information, and then we also have, if we want to protect the tones of the image and also our tablet setting here. So let's go ahead and we'll start with midtones just so you can see what this does. And when I select the dodge tool, it's going to allow me to lighten up an area. So if I wanted to lighten up this cheekbone, as I begin coloring in, you can see it lightens up. But the great thing about it is it keeps the information for the image. So as I go across, say, the eye and the nose and everything, you'll see that it's not changing the image, but it is just lightening it up for us. So this is really great when you're working with things that you want to highlight. You can use this tool right away, and we can even select something like the highlights and then just draw out those highlights a little more of this image using this tool, which will allow us to dodge and lighten that up. We can do the same thing for the shadows, so it'll pick some of those darker tones and make those lighter if we need to do that too. Then we can change the exposure, so this is how much is going to be affected. So you'll probably want to keep it low, and then you can always build that up if you want to. But if we set it to a real high number, let's say 100%, you can see that it affects it a lot more greatly here. So that tool is very useful for doing any kind of lightening or highlights that you want to. Let's go back and just make sure that our history is cleared out here. Okay. The next one is going to be the burn tool, same shortcut key, and it works the same way except it darkens. So if I want to, say, darken up this area, I can do that here. I can darken up shadows if we need to. And again, we have a high exposure. I typically don't work with high exposures. I use a very light exposure, probably even something less than this, and then you can come in and you can build that up as you begin working. So if I wanted to darken up around the eyes, I could do that with this tool, and it's going to darken up for us. We have those same settings, so we can darken the highlights, we can darken the shadows, and we can also darken the midtones if we want. So we'll select shadows, and then anywhere where there's a shaded area, it's going to darken that up for us. We can select highlights, and anywhere it's highlighted, we can darken that down, and gives you a different kind of effect. And so those are the dodge and burn tools. And then we have the sponge tool. It works the same way, only this is going to affect saturation. And you have two modes at the top. You can desaturate or you can saturate. So if we desaturate, it's going to turn it into a grayscale type image. So this is a quick way to come in and desaturate out an image that you would like to. And again, we have that flow setting for adjusting that. We can also affect vibrance or not affect vibrance. And we can saturate. So if we want to make something a lot more saturated, we can come in and do that also. And the great thing about all these different tools, whether it's these three tools here, dodge, burn, and sponge, or the ones before it, blur, sharpen, and smudge, is that they are all based on brushes. So you can always come in here and choose different brushes and paint the way that you would like to with that specific brush, but you have a lot more control over the colors and pixel information by using a combination of brushes and these tools.